I'm filming this before Thursday Night Football, so realistically it's the last day I can wear this shirt without it being horrifically embarrassing. R.I.P. Mike McDaniel, you had a good run as the coach of the Miami Dolphins, but you could only do so much. I'm so sorry. Hi, welcome to Chaos Central Books. My name is Claire, and today I just have a chatty little video about reading habits I admire. Recently, I saw Bibliosophie and Modern Ochima post videos about this. I'll link theirs down below. Some of these items that I have are similar to theirs, but a lot of them are new. Basically, I'm just taking notes on how other people are doing this whole reading thing, because I feel like you all have it figured out. I'm a bad reader. I've said this before, I'll say it again. I don't know what I'm doing. So a lot of these are just things I aspire to because I think they're cool. The first on my list is carrying a book everywhere. This is something I do. I literally have a vendetta against bags I can't fit a book in because what's the point? I think we should all be carrying a book everywhere. This is my bag of choice. It is the Snoopy baggu, which you may think is only seasonally appropriate for fall and winter, but I say no all year because I'm not buying more than one. Maybe I could, but I won't. This is my baggu. I also got this little keychain. Richard Scarry, anybody? Leave a comment if you are more Snoopy or Woodstock, and also what your Richard Scarry vehicle of choice is. I think mine is the pickle car. I have a magnet of it on my fridge. Also, I feel like I've co-opted the Snoopy branding because a lot of people in my life are Snoopy people. Cass is a Snoopy person. My friend came in as a Snoopy person. I'm really more of a Woodstock. I don't know if that's controversial, but look at him. Moving on. Anyway, basically I bought this baggu after getting clarification that it would fit at least one book. I did not buy this until I had multiple real-life people tell me that it would fit a book. So, proof it does fit a book. In here I have Elena Knows and my e-reader. Look at that. So at least two. I fit at least 5 at one point? Maybe 6? I don't know. It can fit a lot. This is the medium crescent bag. I'm not sponsored by Baggu, but if they want to send me another one so I'm not just carrying Snoopy around at all times, I'd be open to it. I don't know how many the small or the large fits, but this works for me. This is the only bag I use, and that's the vibe. I carry it with me everywhere, and every time I'm out in public, there is a book in there, guaranteed. You never know when you're gonna need to read. That's another thing. I think we should all be reading in public more. I'm so pro reading in public. I admire everyone who does it, specifically reading on public transit. When I would take the bus to school in the mornings, I had to bring my e-reader. Otherwise, I would just be like glued to my phone the whole time, and I didn't want to do that. That's a bad way to start my day, personally. No judgment to people who are on their phones. Obviously, my screen time is embarrassing. I just think if you're stuck on a bus for 20 to 30 minutes, that's a good use for me to read. Sometimes that would be the only reading time I'd get in the day, so you should take advantage of it. I also really admire people who are completionists and backlist readers. I think it's really easy to get caught up in the new release cycle. God knows I am. I'm held hostage by the new releases every month, and that's why my TBR is so overflowing. But I really appreciate people who are dedicated to like digging through an author's backlist and tracing the evolution of an author. I find really interesting. Seeing how they started, where they ended up. I think it's good stuff. The next reading habit I think we should all aspire to is being a frequent library user. I am my library's biggest fan. I will always show up at the door, and then I will leave with too many books, and then sometimes have overdue library books. But they forgive me because we love each other. That being said, I am also a frequent book buyer, but I make it a point to shop indie or shop used, and those are traits that I also really admire. Having a favorite local independent bookstore is such a flex. I'm also really impressed by people who shop for used books and like make a system out of it. There's some really impressive book collections that are entirely used. People who hunt for like vintage editions or special editions. It's a talent, one that I don't possess. I try my best to use bookshop, but half-price books can only get me so far, you know. Either way, using the library, shopping indie, shopping used, all of these are good techniques to avoid giving into the evil Amazon machine. I understand that Amazon can be really enticing sometimes. I feel like if you're online and you're in book circles, you know how damaging Amazon is to the book community. So we all just need to do better. And I feel like using your library, hey, it's free. Shopping used, cheap. Shopping indie, supporting your local community. So there's options out there for everybody. Going along with shopping used and collecting vintage editions, I really admire people who collect and read classics. I aspire to be this kind of person. I'm trying tooth and nail to read a single classic book this year, but like having a gorgeous like shelf of just Penguin classics, or I really love the orange Penguin classics. There's an East of Eden edition that I've had my eye on for literal years. Will I ever read it? No. That's why I haven't bought it yet. I'm really tempted by a lot of them. I admire the people who read the books they own before they buy new ones. This was introduced to me like when I was a kid, my childhood best friend Maddie, still my best friend, she would read all the books she owned before she bought any new ones. And when she said this to me, it was like such a foreign concept. I didn't understand it, and I still don't. I still don't. I have so many like unread books. Imagine just like not having those around. It's so bizarre to me, but like she's operating on a higher plane of existence. I just feel like the people who have the self-restraint to recognize I have a finite amount of time. I can only dedicate so much time to reading, so I'm not going to buy more books than I have the time to read. I will read the books I own and then buy new ones to fill that time. It's just like a genius concept to me. I understand it in theory, but I cannot practice it. That's just not how my brain works. I wish it was though, really. I admire it a lot. Another thing my friend Maddie does. Read one book at a time. People who do this, I envy you so much. I cannot do it. I've never been able to read one book at a time, and it's chaos in my brain. Like I'm always reading more than one book at a time. Sometimes up to 10, at least 2. I'm never just reading one. The people who manage to do that, tell me your secrets. How do you not get bored? Maybe I'm the problem. I also think it's really cool when people have a curated selection of books or they regularly purge their shelves. I think overconsumerism has been like a hot button issue recently. And I don't want to tell people to not buy their books. If you're buying indie, buying local, who am I to shame you? But buying books for the sake of having books, I feel like is not helping anybody. Just because you want to have like your own personal library or whatever, I don't really like that. I think it's much cooler to be like, here are the books I own, and I love them all, and I'm so proud of this collection. And that could still be a lot of books. If you've read hundreds of books that you like and you want to keep them, by all means. But I think that is more meaningful than just having like 1,000 books, half of which you've read, half of which you don't have an intention to read, and most of them you didn't like. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me personally. I also love whenever people organize their books in any way that is not color-coded. And this is specifically anti-me. I have to color organize my shelves. It's the only way that makes sense. I've tried to do it other ways and it makes me like upset. A color-coded system is the only thing that works for me. But when I see other people's bookshelves, I'm enamored by them. I think they're gorgeous. I think they're beautiful as objects. And I would aspire to have that, but my brain won't let me. I often think of like Noelle Gallagher. Miss her. Hope she's doing well. Her bookshelves were so stunning. I forget what system she had, but like her one video where she does a bookshelf tour, ingrained in my mind. Those beautiful shelves. Also, Jess Decker on Instagram. I think she has the best bookshelves on Instagram. Like, they're stunning. So it is possible to like have beautiful shelves that are not color coded. My brain just won't accept them in my home. Speaking of color coding though, I love when people have a specific and sometimes complicated annotation system. If you have color coded tabs for different moods or themes or whatever you're tabbing, I'm impressed. Could never be me. That's a level of like homework I've refused to assign to myself, but I admire the other people who do it. I think that's like a level of intentionality to your reading that I can just really respect. I really only have like 2 annotation styles. One is like for my favorite books, like here's Memorial, which by the way, this is my my edition got sun bleached, which I've like never seen before. It reminds me of that one episode of SpongeBob where he tans too much. This is supposed to be orange and it turned half yellow because it was in the sun too long. Anyway, my annotation style basically I copied from somebody on TikTok from 5 years ago, maybe? I can't even remember. But I don't know if you can tell. I basically just like highlight the sides of the page. Basically, I will like highlight a line that sticks out to me, and then I will highlight the side of the page where that is. And these are for my like favorite books. When I'm annotating an arc, it's really, I just use a tab that is corresponding to the color of the cover, and I will underline the corresponding line in the book with specific pens. I like a real thin jet black pen. Not doing any colors in the book, just matching the color of the tab to the book. That's the most level of color coordination I can get. And like in this arc, I use like various shades of green because there's like various shades of green on the cover, but they don't mean anything different, just the same underlining. And it's really just quotes I like. I'm not trying to like draw any big connections to anything. I'm never thinking that hard. That's kind of the theme of all of this. Maybe I should be thinking harder. I also find it so incredibly cool when people make and use their own bookmarks. This is the Sunny's bookmark, obviously. Love Sunny's. This is one of my bookmark mugs because I have more than one. I have a bookmark problem. Mallory on Instagram at bitchbereading has the bitch mark. I love this one. Mads reads on Instagram. Her shop I think is called Virgin Art. This is Support Your Local Library, a classic. I have a few others of hers. This one. Very good. A lot of these others are from bookstores themselves. Oh, Cass got me these orange juice for dinner ones. Love this one. He has a little ribbon, and then sky. Lighting's not doing me any favors. Oh no. I don't know if you can see this very well, but I love a bookmark, but like these high quality, like laminated bookmarks, respect. I also really admire when people can write good reviews, and not just good, but like good and positive reviews. Unfortunately, it is well known that I'm a bit of a hater, and I find it much easier to write a negative review than a positive one. So whatever that says about me, but I think critique can be positive as well as negative, and a good reviewer should be able to do both. I do not claim to be a good reviewer, I claim to be a snarky one. So anybody who manages to like be sincere and genuine in their praise of a book, admirable. This one is kind of influenced by recent stuff I've been seeing on Instagram, but people who make their own curriculum for a season, or just being really intentional with your reading, creating a TBR, all of these things. The curriculum thing in particular I've seen popping up, and I wish I could do that. People who think to themselves, I'm going to explore a certain theme, so they gather books that cover those themes and they read them and make connections, think about them in a specific way. I would never assign myself homework like that. I admire people who do it, but I know if I would attempt to do that, I would just get annoyed. I would get annoyed and not read the books. I wish I was different. So I admire people who do that. I think setting a TBR is kind of similar to that, except the books don't have to be connected to one another. But even a TBR, I don't want to do it. I don't want to think that hard. Again, maybe I should just think hard. I just don't want to think that hard about my hobby. I want to be able to think about a book, be like, hey, I want to read that right now, and then read it. But yeah, maybe that's my problem. I think there's a balance to being intentional with your reading and also being a mood reader. Whatever that balance is, I haven't been able to find it, but I admire people who have. Okay, another thing that has been influenced by my time on the internet. I think it is so cool to be familiar with Shakespeare or just be like a frequent play reader. I've been playing a lot of Tiny Bookshop recently, like a lot. A huge portion of that game is you recommending books to people, and people keep asking me for plays, and anytime I recommend them The Tempest or The Importance of Being Earnest, I'm like, should I go back and revisit some of these plays that I did not fully understand when I had to read them in high school? I just think it would be cool to revisit them. And nothing's stopping me, aside from accessing the plays. But also, if anybody else is a Smosh viewer, big Smosh kid over here, was raised on the internet, so love Smosh. But Angela from Smosh is a huge Shakespeare nerd. Like, she knows Shakespeare front and back. And I just think that's really cool. Imagine just being able to quote Shakespeare in your daily life. That's big theater kid energy, but also big, like, literature nerd energy. And I respect it. Kind of going along with that, but people who just read everything, reading different formats, reading diversely, reading internationally, reading translated works, people who don't box themselves in. I feel like I fall victim to this a lot. I love my literary fiction, and I need to be better about like branching out. I feel like the International Booker has been good about pushing me out of my comfort zone in this respect, reading books I probably wouldn't otherwise, or just introducing me to new titles I hadn't heard of. Also stuff like Hispanic Heritage Month, which is going on right now, or Women in Translation Month, which is in August. Whatever reminder people need to be like, hey, there's books published in other languages that are cool and relevant, and talking about similar things to what you're already reading. I think it's good to push everybody out of their comfort zone a bit. I also love when people participate in book clubs. Again, this could not be me. I've attempted so many book clubs in my life and I fail at all of them. Something about giving me a timeline to read a book, I'm gonna fail. I can't do it. But respect to people who manage to do it, whether that's like at your local bookstore doing their book club, or a book club with your friends, a book club online with people you don't know in real life. All of that I think is so cool, and I really admire people who can do it. Something else my brain won't let me do. DNF a book. I can't do it. I will stick it out even when I hate a book. So people who freely DNF a book, huge admiration for you. I don't know what about my brain won't let me do it, but I think that's a skill, honestly, to be like, this book isn't serving me, I don't want to do it, I'm not going to read it right now. Or ever. It could just be a hard DNF, a soft DNF. I love that there's a difference between the two. That's so book internet. I also find it so incredibly cool when people subscribe to print media or book media. If you have a New Yorker subscription, or you're subscribed to like your local newspaper, or if you have a subscription to the Paris Review, very cool. Or if you subscribe to people's like online book programs. I think McNally Jackson has like a book subscription service. I'm not talking about like book of the month. I'm talking about like if like a press has their own bookish subscription service where they release so many titles a year and they're like, if you pay this much money, we'll send you those titles. That's kind of what I'm talking about. I think those are just elite book traits to have. Admittedly, this one might be a bit of a red flag, but I think it's cool to follow book prizes. Is that controversial to say? It doesn't have to be the Booker. I know it doesn't mean a lot to a lot of people. I'm held hostage by the Booker every year, it feels like, but the Booker Prize, the International Booker, the Women's Prize for Fiction, the National Book Award. I'm sure there's so many others. The Pulitzer. Like, there's so many book prizes out there, and I just think to have an elevated knowledge of what those book prizes are, what they mean, which books are nominated, which books aren't nominated, I feel like that's almost more interesting. Which books are getting snubbed from the book prizes? Maybe we should be talking about that more than the ones that are. I love the book community coming together and either celebrating a book prize or critiquing it or just talking about it. I think I'm initially drawn to the Booker Prize in the first place because it feels like an unofficial book club. And again, I'm bad at book clubs, so it's me on my own time reading the list and then seeing what other people have said. I just think book prizes allow opportunity for interesting dialogue. So people who know what's going on and are tuned into that, I respect it. Finally, I admire when people go analog. When you ditch the apps, if you're using a handwritten reading journal, if you're doing anything to track your reading other than log into Goodreads, I have such huge respect for you. I have abandoned every agenda, every reading journal I've ever attempted, even just like writing notes. I can't keep up with it. So the people who take time out of their day to handwrite what they're reading or to just like type in their notes app what they've read, I think that's so cool. I've seen so many like gorgeous reading journal spreads that I would love to emulate. No, I cannot. I know I can't do whatever these people are doing, but it's so cool to see, and like I will like everything that pops up in my Instagram feed about it. I think reading journals are cool. And if you have one, you're cool. And that's kind of it. So that's all I have for you today. Obviously, this isn't a list of how to be a better reader. Obviously, I'm not doing most of these myself. I would love to know if there are any reading habits that you admire, or if you do any of these habits, if you disagree with any of these habits. I would love to know. So I will see you next time. Bye. Do y'all want to see what else is in my baggu? So obviously the book, the e-reader, my wallet that has this keychain that my friend Louise made for me. I think it's so pretty. Miscellaneous receipt from Tropical Smoothie Cafe when Cass and I got lunch the other day. A claw clip. And then in this little pocket I have the Touchland hand sanitizer, which is way too expensive and I should not have bought, but it's lavender scented and I really do like it, unfortunately. Little e.l.f. lip balm that I rarely use. And then Aquaphor chapstick, which I do use more often. Little hair tie thingy. And then finally, this little Jesus that I was gifted. It says God with a heart on it, in case you forgot. I'm not a believer. That's why I think it's kind of funny to carry this around. That's all I got.